Hey, it is Ryan Seacrest. There's something so thrilling about playing Chumba Casino. Maybe it's the simple reminder that with a little luck, anything is possible. ChumbaCasino.com has hundreds of social casino-style games to choose from with new game releases each week. Play for free anytime, anywhere for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee. So you say,
"Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?"
Brew 2 shots of espresso.
After Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you're ready for some beats.
Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music.
You head to meet some friends, but can't remember the place.
Hey, Meta, call Eva.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, "Hey, Meta," to harness the power of Meta AI. Shop now at meta.com/smartglasses.
What's your favorite hunting tradition? Is it the early morning coffee by the campfire, or the stories shared while waiting in the blind? Maybe it's that special spot you go back to every season, just like the person who first took you hunting. Hunting season is finally here, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has everything you need to gear up for less. From shotguns and rifles to feeders, game cameras, camo, and more, we've got the brands you trust and the prices you'll love. Plus, text HUNT24 to 22369 and get $20 off when you spend $100 on hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you shop. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Gear up, have fun, and make this season your best one yet.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5.
Barreiro out, Guardsy in. We are guest-free for the next hour, besides Brett Blakemore from Packer Preview joining us about 10 minutes from now to give us the Packers side of things as it pertains to the border battle on Sunday. Rain in the forecast tomorrow. That is magical for December 27th. Everybody got their white Christmas. Everybody got their snow. I hope everybody's happy. I hope Dan is happy that he got his white Christmas. Did it really add much? Wouldn't it have been better yesterday to have no snow? Just no snow whatsoever? My kids got to go sledding the last few days, which they appreciated. But it's just hard to get around. You had to shovel to get your family into your driveway and all of that stuff. I don't have a plow guy. I'm not doing the plows app. I actually didn't have to shovel because I was working. My poor wife had to go shovel. It's like meat sauce. I hope everybody got their snow and they were all happy that
Randy came over and shoveled for you.
Hot ass Randy. They got their white Christmas. Everybody's happy. Now the snow can just go away. Can we agree on that? If we're at least not going to agree on white Christmas or not white Christmas, which I'm firmly in the camp of I don't need a white Christmas. Do we need any more snow now, or do we have that out of the way and it can just be rain the rest of the time?
I mean, I was in my hometown of Des Moines and there was no white Christmas there, but it was still dreary and gloomy and overcast. And
one thing I didn't notice until I got the Gopher women's basketball play-by-play job and started traveling around the Big Ten in the winter. So I do it in the fall, obviously, for football. Every Big Ten town is the same in February. You don't know where you are. You're on a bus somewhere. It's just plains, as in the Great Plains. It's gray, it's cloudy, and it's cold. So if you're ever watching like the Big Ten Network Journey, the BTN, where they could be using footage from any town. They'll say it's Madison or Champaign or West Lafayette. It could be anything. They could be lying to you because they all look the same.
Some trees and some cloudy skies.
Barely any trees.
Found it.
It's just fields. Fields and gray. What do we have for the top 5?
Well, we've got 2 teams going to Texas tomorrow, but we'll start here.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
You're going to need to carry this.
Well, we really haven't mentioned the Wild at all this entire show, which
they're on Christmas break.
One, am stunned.
Aren't they on Christmas break?
They are on Christmas break, but tomorrow they'll play the Stars in Dallas. Pregame at 6:45, puck drop at 7 right here on the Fan. They're coming off before Christmas break a 4-3 win against the Blackhawks. The streak was broken finally at 18 periods of Kaprizov-less periods without a Kaprizov goal. Unbelievable run. So it finally comes to an end. I think 2 out of the 4 off the top of my head were goals without Kaprizov on the ice, so good for them. But this is a game where it's a big-time team that's going to be a playoff team in your division that you'll probably see in the first round. This is a game where they have to win, or at least show that they're competitive, because they haven't done that this season.
Compete against the top teams in the West, right? They are a top team in the West, but compete against the top team in the West. They had not done that recently. I actually watched, believe it or not, a significant portion of that game against Chicago. I was listening to Joe and Tom, and they talked about, Kaprizov had one of the empty netters, or he had an empty netter, right? But he had a goal earlier that tied it at 1.
Yeah.
And they were saying he'll never have a goal easier than that one because I think it just rolled right in front of the puck and in front of the net, and he just tapped it in, Happy Gilmore style, just tapped it in, Chubbs Peterson. And I agree with that, obviously. But when you're in the right place as often as he is, what does Pat Micheletti always tell us? 75% of the goals scored are within like a 4-foot radius of the net. You got to get to the net. Pat's been telling me that for 15 years on the Cake Show when he was the house band. Your best players have to be your best players. That's number one.
Yeah.
And number two, you got to go to the net. And Kaprizov knows how to go to the net. And it got a little dicey there for a minute with Chicago. Interesting stat for them. They led the league in scoring the first goal. And they did that the other night.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what Joe O'Donnell said, and I trust him. They led the NHL in scoring the first goal of the game. But then they also lead in regulation losses. So they get up one and then just go, all right, we're done, I guess. We've showed that we're here to compete. They're young. They're rebuilding. We all know about that. But that was one, when you turn it on and it's 3-2 in the third, you're like, geez, they got to get, like, you want to win that one, right? I mean, you want to decisively win that one. They get to 2 points. It's all good. And now they get the break, and hopefully some guys get healthy. What do we know about the health of the team? Are guys coming back soon?
You would hope so. I mean, we're still waiting on Eck to be on the other side of that. And I'm still waiting for kind of the reports of who's flying and who's not.
Yep.
But
Gus Bus is back. We know
Gus
that.
Bus is back. He played against the Hawks, so that's good there.
Russo is coming in studio tomorrow right around 5 o'clock.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is not on the road trip. Joe Smith is back from paternity leave, so Russo is not on everyday wild duty like he once was, like he has been this season, again, back in that saddle. So Russo will join in the 5 o'clock hour tomorrow.
Let's talk about your squad, the Wolves. They also go to Texas, different part of Texas, going to Houston to take on the Rockets, which you'll hear tomorrow on the Timberwolves channel on the iHeartRadio app.
Yeah, Houston's good. Houston is one of the surprise teams in the NBA, which nobody knows about, because why would they? Interesting. I heard you guys talking about trying to fix the NBA. We might get into that tomorrow a little bit.
Do you like my penalty box idea?
It's interesting. I don't think they're quite at that moment. I don't think they're quite at the moment that baseball is, where they're basically trying to reinvent everything. An Abner Doubleday's great game. I don't think they're quite there yet.
There were so many ridiculous options thrown out, from the text line to callers to everything, that I thought the penalty box just fit in with the segment.
It definitely fit in.
Okay,
yeah, I'm not saying
you.
it was out of bounds.
Okay.
It was extreme. It is interesting, though. This has really started popping up the last couple of weeks. And so I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. I think people watch things differently than they do. Football is the one thing that will never change. It just will never change. A football game will be on. We're breaking down the Game Above Sports Bowl. Why is this game on right now? We do this every December because people are watching. I bet if we looked at the ratings for this, I bet 2 million people are watching, which is a decent number, by the way. There's not a lot of things that jump out and get you 2 million people. Just trust me. It's going to be over 1 million, and they're going to watch the Rate Bowl whenever that starts. It's on ESPN2 if you want to watch, because Pittsburgh.
Oh, Tucker Gleason. What a player.
And Toledo are in overtime. I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. People are still following the NBA. They're doing it differently. It's definitely more of a highlight league now, which some people don't like. The 3-point shooting, yes, is a problem. That there are some games where each team shoots 55 3-pointers, but not every game's like that. And the games yesterday were all good, at least through my eyes. They were all pretty compelling and all pretty competitive. And the Wolves, I'm weird, I think, when it comes to how I watch stuff, because my I guess bar is so low right now for the Wolves. In this, I have probably too much patience, even though I've already said I don't see how they can make this work with Julius Randle. I am. I've seen a lot when it comes to this team, but I don't think, I don't go crazy like everybody is right now on Wolves Twitter, for example. I don't think there's a future for Julius Randle on the team the way they want to play right now, the way that they have been successful. There's just too many, and it has nothing to do with how many shots he takes. It's, for me, all about the defense, not knowing where he's supposed to be. But then I just keep thinking, he played for Tom Thibodeau. where on a good team, you can't be on a good Tibbs team and not know something about defense. So I'm hoping something clicks there, but I'm not optimistic about it. But because of how well they played through 3 quarters, it wasn't going to bother me if they lost that game yesterday. I was annoyed that they have no answer for Kyrie ever. They didn't a year ago in the playoffs. I don't understand why they want to pick him up like 75 feet away from the basket and try to run with him, because he just goes downhill on everybody and gets past whoever's guarding him. He got past Jaden, got past Ant, got past Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think the comeback would be, well, we want to be at least moving with him so that he's not coming down full speed on us, and then we have no chance. I'd give that a chance. I'd stop trying to chase him 75 feet because nobody's as fast as him. The other thing he can't do is he can't reach. You can't try to get a steal from Kyrie. You're not going to. His handle's too good. Ant did it a couple times, got completely torched. So you literally have to play straight up, hope and pray that he misses. He missed the 3-pointer, but I was not as apoplectic as everybody else was as the lead was going. And it's because they played so well the first 3 quarters. It was symphonic offense. And has not been said much about this edition of the Minnesota Timberwolves. The ball was moving. They were sharing it. And then guess what? Guys were making shots. They were in rhythm. Dante had a couple of threes. Jaden McDaniels actually hit a 3. Anthony was playing well. Rudy was playing great. Julius was playing well. Had a great lob in a fast break situation to Rudy. All of it was coming together nicely. So I thought, okay, they've shown another flash. They can't sustain it very long. That's been the problem with this team. But if they continue to stack these flashes up and hang in there, maybe they can go on one of those runs that they've gone on the last couple of years. Not to where they were the number 1 team in the West. I think that's kind of out of reach right now with the standings, because the Thunder have only lost 5 games. Their opponent tomorrow, Houston's only lost 9. But they had shown enough, like they are starting to get it for longer stretches of time, that I thought, well, they're going to somehow lose this game and everybody's going to be mad, but there's at least something to build off of. That's how low my threshold has gotten with my favorite team, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Sad,
but I was in the minority. But that's, as someone who's trying to see through this morass and this garbage that's been, the first, how many games have they played? 29 games. I'm just like, can they just build off of that, even if it is a Kyrie Irving-led meltdown and a ridiculous loss, because there was no reason they should have been threatened to lose that game.
Well, you know what you're doing. You're enjoying the season.
I'm not really enjoying it.
Okay.
I'm trying to enjoy the season.
Well, good for
But the 3 quarters yesterday, and Luka went out, which is a big part of it, but they were playing well even when Luka was out. Like, they started the game right. The ball was moving. The ball was popping. Guys were coming in and playing well. Nickeil has been great. Obviously, Dante has been up and down. Nas, I thought, was okay yesterday. Like, the biggest thing is, and this is where I also worry, and this is what you do in the Wolves. You just bring it up in the top 5, and then it's about to break.
It's the top 2.
But Jaden, somebody had the stat, I think Jace Frederick had it, that when he makes his threes, when the Wolves have won, the 15 games that they've won, Jaden McDaniels is shooting like 47% from 3. In the 14 losses, it's at like 22%. And if you really want to break down the Wolves, that's what I retweeted. That's their season. That's their team. Even going back to a year ago, when Jaden hits his corner threes, they're almost unbeatable. They were a year ago. This year it's a little bit different because they don't have Cat. But point is, he's going to get that shot. Teams have said now for multiple years, we will live with Jaden beating us. If Jaden hits his corner threes, we're not going to beat the Timberwolves. But he can't hit them consistently enough. I mean, you just see those numbers. Half the games he can't hit them, they lose. The other half, he hits them, they win. That's your season. That's your team. And I don't know if he's ever going to be consistent enough for all the other things that he does really well. Defend, and he's rebounding better, as we talked about with Johnny. I don't think he'll ever be a consistent enough 3-point shooter to have that go. Is that a final now in the Game Above Sports Bowl?
Tough break for Toledo, though. They fail on the 3rd and 10, and now they had to settle for a field goal in overtime. So any touchdown wins it for Pitt. Tough.
So Pittsburgh gets the ball in the second overtime. For those waiting for Rutgers and Kansas State, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait a little bit longer, or go to ESPN2. Good job on the top 2 at 5. Appreciate that. When we come back, we will get back to Vikings and Packers discussion. We'll get the Packers outlook on things. We'll head over to the Green Bay side of things. The senior executive producer of Packer Preview on KFAN. Brett Blakemore will call the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. He will give us the Packers scouting report on what Green Bay is thinking heading into this very important border battle.
Every day when you log into ChumbaCasino.com, the ultimate online social casino, you get a free daily bonus. Imagine if you got daily bonuses in other parts of your life.
I chose French fries over loaded French fries.
I asked Stuart from accounting about his weekend, even though I don't care.
I updated my operating system without having to call tech support.
Collect your free daily bonus at ChumbaCasino.com now. And live the Chumba life. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Tune in 9 to noon every Tuesday as PA broadcasts live from TCO to talk all things purple. TCO Tuesdays are powered by Suit Cup Manufacturing.
Welcome back to Bumper to Bumper. Guardsy in for Barreiro today, still in the second overtime here. Pittsburgh wins it with a touchdown for the formerly known as Quick Lane Bowl. I have not been available December 26th the last few years, or 3 years out of the last 7 or 8, because I've been in Detroit at Ford Field for a Gopher Bowl game. I will be in Charlotte 1 week from tomorrow for the Duke's Mayo Bowl against Virginia Tech. We've talked a lot of Vikings-Packers today. Hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686 if you have questions for our next guest. We've talked a lot of the Vikings side of things with Kevin Seifert and Pete Bursich, but now we'll head over across the border to the executive producer of Packer Preview on KFAN Radio. You can hear it 8 to 9 on Sundays. Unless it's Gopher football season, then it's 7 o'clock. But he joins us on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Brett, thanks for the time. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, long time, first time. Really love the program, and thanks for having me on. I know everyone listening just needed to know what the other side of the intel was. They've been begging for more Packers talk, so happy to provide that.
Certainly, and people can podcast noon to 3 if they want to get a little bit more. Dave Sinekin was in there, but certainly good to get the perspective from the other side. So as we approach the border battle, huge stakes for both teams, right? You've got, obviously, the Vikings are looking to get the number 1 seed. If they win out, they get it. But they could also fall all the way to 6 if they lose both games, which would include the game against Green Bay this Sunday. So what's at stake for the Packers side of things, and what's the optimistic view of what happens this weekend and the pessimistic view for what might happen in terms of their playoff stretch?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the 1 seed is out of reach. So you have to hope that the best case scenario is that somehow, which they can still catch the Vikings and pass them for the 5 seed. The Vikings would be the 6. That would involve the Packers winning out, Vikings losing out. They'd both be at 4 losses, and then the tiebreaker being common opponents. So the Packers hop them on that. So that's best case scenario. That's all they've got to play for. But it's still something because it's going to Tampa Bay over going to L.A. Which one you want, it's Sophie's choice at that point. But the worst case scenario was the other team in the playoffs, and that's Philly. And even if the Packers, stomp the Bears week 18, which we all know they probably will, because the Bears are a dead team. We'll see more of a dead team tonight on Thursday Night Football. If they lose to Minnesota and Washington wins out against 2 mid to bad teams or wins out, they are going to Philly as the 7 seed, and that I want nothing to do with that from a Packers perspective. Saquon has torn up the Packers no matter what uniform he's wearing, so that would be the nightmare scenario. So a win on Sunday would be really huge for Green and Gold.
Executive producer of Packer Preview, Brett Blakemore, joining us here on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Guardsy in for Barreiro. Vikings Packers Sunday fan, 1 o'clock pregame, 3:25 kick, game of the week. Kevin Seifert told us this game has never had these teams be this good in terms of most wins together, which is pretty incredible. Let's talk about the Packers offense specifically. I've been mentioning, Brett, earlier in the show that the Packers offense post the Week 10 bye has been basically top 5 in everything. What has changed with the Packers offense? Is it as simple as Jordan Love is healthy and Jordan Love is developing?
I think most of it, at least 90%, is that simple. I think that Matt LaFleur, a big criticism of his, especially when Aaron Jones was in Green Bay, was he abandons the run game, and he just never sticks to it. He always just wants to pass in the first quarter. They've done no such thing. They have just pounded the ball as much as you could want. Especially with Josh Jacobs. They have full faith in him. They're not scared of him getting hurt. They did shut him down a little bit last week, but that's a big part of it too, is that, the run sets up the pass sets up the run. But Jordan Love is playing at another level since he's been healthy from the groin injury, from the knee injury. He essentially had one leg tied behind his back against the Vikings. So it was tough. They also didn't have a field goal kicker as well, missed 2 kicks. There was a handful of 4th and 8s and 4th and 10s that the Packers ended up going for in field goal position in that game because they had no faith in Narveson to make a field goal. That hurt as well that game. But Jordan Love is healthy, and he's looking like the Toyota-thon carspiracy is in full effect at this point.
What is the Christian Watson injury update, and how important is he for Sunday, his availability?
He's still limited. He didn't practice today. But the problem is that even if he's not catching passes, he's still a big part of the offense because he's the stretch guy. And that's the thing about the Packers receivers, that each one of them does a different thing, right? So Reed is kind of your gadget guy, that your jet sweeps, your yak guy. Dobbs is your contested catch, go up and get a corner fade in the end zone guy. And Watson is to stretch the defense out. And if he's not there to stretch the defense out north-south, there's not a lot underneath. There's not a lot east and west. So even if he's not catching passes, I still think he's a big part. So it would be huge to have him, even as a distraction, to spread out the Vikings D.
The Vikings obviously want to put pressure on Jordan Love. I call it, and if you're new to the show, the Flonami, the Brian Flores defense, that. Brett. Yeah, you can maybe put that on Packer Preview on Sunday. But the Packers don't let Jordan Love get sacked very often. In fact, I think he's only been sacked like 3 times in this winning streak since they've been putting up 30. So kind of take us through how this offensive line has been built, and is that accurate that Jordan Love has had a lot of time back there?
He's had a lot of time, and the O-line deserves tons of credit. And there's also some luck in play, too, because they've only lost 1 offensive lineman for 1 game this season. It was Josh Myers, Lions at home, the center, and it showed because the rest of the snaps that game were essentially handcuffing Love down by the shins, and he couldn't make anything happen after that. It immediately stunted the offense. So when that O-line is healthy, they're really good, and the pass protection numbers show that. But also Jordan Love is so mobile, and especially when he's healthy. And it's not even mobile of scrambling or read options or anything like that, but just being elusive in the pocket. So I think they kind of go hand in hand, and they have a good vibe going of where he's going to scramble and where he's going to kind of move to. So they work together very well.
We are talking with Brett Blakemore, Senior Executive Producer, Packer Preview, KFAN Radio, Sundays 8 to 9 on the Fan, 7 to 8 during Minnesota Gopher football season. Brett Blakemore giving us the Packers scouting report here on the Fan. Let's flip it to the defense. Joe Barry out. Jeff Hafley in for Hafley. Defensive coordinator in. He was the old head coach at Boston College, leaves BC, comes to the NFL. How different is the defense schematically than it was a year ago? How different has it been just productivity-wise this year in Green Bay?
Yeah, it's a complete philosophy change. I think you saw it a lot. I think last week was a perfect indication of how different the philosophies were, because you've got a young, inexperienced quarterback, just inexperienced backup in Spencer Rattler. And Joe Barry would have sat back in a soft zone and would have said, he's going to make a mistake eventually, guys. We just got to play sound. We'll sit back and let him make a mistake into our defense. Jeff Hafley, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. We're going to make him make a mistake. He's not going to have any time to think, and we're going to pressure him until we decide he's making a mistake. And that's kind of the overall philosophy is press, is having guys up, not so much like a B flow where everyone's up on the line of scrimmage, you don't know who's coming and who's not, but just pressuring them and not giving free yards on a 3rd and 10, you're not 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. You're pressuring and making things happen, and the takeaway numbers have been unreal all season long. Xavier McKinney has been a revelation, and when Jair is on the field, he's very good.
Yeah, we'll talk about Jair in a minute. I think we differ in our opinion of him, but health-wise, we know about Detroit's defense being decimated. What's the health of the Packer defense entering Sunday?
Well, I just judging by your vibes, just purely on the phone, I think we probably agree on Jair. I think you're a big Jair guy, to be honest, but just from the sounds of it. Quay Walker is going to be out again. He's been the green dot all year. but I really like Edgerrin Cooper a lot, and it seems like he's going to be the guy, the rookie linebacker that'll take over. But the rest of the defense, I mean, Ballantyne was limited today, so we expect him to be back, but Alexander, to me, is the big one I know we'll get to eventually. But, I mean, even Evan Williams did not practice today, which is a big loss in the back. Bullard, I think, was there as well, so it was limited today. But I'd really like to see Jair out to really round out the D.
He hasn't played in a while. He was a full participant in what would have been a walkthrough yesterday. I don't think either team really practiced yesterday. Today he was limited. Matt LaFleur basically saying he's not expecting him for Sunday. And it's another year, Brett, from Packer Preview, that Jair is just not really available. So what is the theory behind all of this? Do you agree with some others that cover the Packers that say he may never play another snap for Green Bay?
Yeah, so the host of Packer Preview, Dave Sinekin, which, by the way, congratulations, 30 years on the fan, on KFAN in Minneapolis. So we love that. He thinks there's something fishy going on, that maybe there's something more to the story than we're getting. And Jair has had moments where he's gotten himself into trouble and into drama, and we don't know if he's lost the room, if he did something in the locker room or in the DB's room or whatever. But I listened to LaFleur's presser from earlier today, and it seemed, I mean, we're reading into tones of words, but it seemed to me like he was more frustrated that maybe there was not a relapse is not the word I'm looking for, but another setback in the knee injury, and he was frustrated that maybe he thought he was going to get him. I mean, if they didn't want to play him, they'd put him on IR and open up an extra roster spot for him. So that would be the theory anyways. He's missed 5 games now. So it's frustrating, but personally, maybe it's optimism, maybe it's copium, but I think that hopefully there's just nothing there and he's just not progressing like they want him
to. Last thing for Brett Blakemore, Senior Executive Producer of Packer Preview, heard Sundays right here on the Fan as we get you ready for Border Battle. What's the way I want to phrase this? Green Bay will win against the Vikings if. Finish that sentence.
Green Bay will win against the Vikings if they score more than 30 points.
That's really helpful.
I genuinely think that's it.
I just thought you said even more points. Sorry, I interrupted you. I should have known the Senior Executive Producer for Packer Preview would have had a better answer than that. So more than 30 is the benchmark. Go ahead.
I think if they score, because I think you just have to limit the Vikings offense, and there's been Vikings games the past couple of weeks where they haven't really looked all that convincing offensively, where they had to turn it on towards the end and then, dig themselves out of a hole. You think of the Cardinals game, you think of the Seahawks game, both games where the offense didn't really look all that great, and then they managed to pull themselves out of the hole that they dug themselves. So I think if you can just keep them down there and put up points to be a competent offense, I think the defense can do a job enough if you put up at least 30-plus points.
What concerns you about the Vikings offense? Are you a believer in Sam Darnold?
I'm not a non-Sam Darnold believer. I would say I'm not going to give him a max contract till he wins a playoff game, at least. But I don't think that you shouldn't explore it. And if he is willing to take a tag, you should definitely explore it. I'm just concerned that he's not going to be happy-go-lucky to sign a franchise tag and play on that when there might be a payday somewhere else. That'd be for significantly more. My biggest concern with the Vikings is crossing routes to JJ. I feel like every time they play the Packers, I see the same thing over and over and over. It's a crosser. He loses a corner. He's wide open. It's Sam Darnold or whoever will layer it over the linebacker under the safety, and JJ will have a 20-yard catch, and they'll dice him the entire time, something the Lions did earlier. So that would be my biggest concern. If that train gets rolling again and JJ gets going, I might see the gritty a couple of times more than I want to.
Brett, thanks for the time. Where can people follow you and listen to you down the road?
Yeah, it's Brett KFAN on X, but also Packer Preview every Sunday at 8 now, since the Gopher season is over at 8 a.m.
I appreciate the time, man. Have fun, Border Battle, whatever number it is, Sunday at US Bank Stadium. Thank you.
I'll see you there.
That is Brett Blakemore from Packer Preview, heard on KFAN, Senior Executive Producer there, giving us the Packers scouting report for Border Battle number whatever. Paul Allen will tell us on Sunday at 3:25. He was pretty good, didn't you think?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was a good scouting report. Yeah. Gave us a good primer.
It's a little biased towards the Pack, don't you think?
Well, it's on Packer Preview.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what you have to do. He's in the belly of the beast. We'll put a wrap on the show and update you on a barn burner in Detroit. Toledo gets the victory. Unbelievable finish and maybe a controversial ending. Why not? It's Bulls.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Final segment of the show today. Guardsy in for Barreiro. I'll be back tomorrow as well. We'll have the pick segment with Carl Gerbschmidt. We'll have Ben Gessling. We'll have Lavelli Neal III. We'll also have Russo Radio joining in studio right around 5 o'clock. I have no idea what's been going on with the Game Above Sports Bowl, formerly known as the Quick Lane Bowl, formerly known as the Motor City Bowl in Detroit. Toledo and Pitt. Toledo has celebrated twice like they've won the game. Yet the game is still going on. There was a review. They're in the 2-point conversion part of overtime now, where every team just has to run continuous 2-point conversions. They're through 5 overtimes. It's 46-46. I think one of the field storms, Toledo thought they stopped the Pittsburgh quarterback before the line. They reviewed it because you got to get it right, especially in the Game on Sports. What's the bowl game called? I can't
Game
even
Above Sports.
Game Above Sports Bowl. They rushed the field. They reviewed it. Overtime continues. And it looks like Toledo's got the ball here to start the 6th overtime, 46-46.
If not the Game Above Sports Bowl, when? I mean, this is as big as it gets.
And everybody, if you go on Twitter, and I know that's not real life, but everybody at home right now watching sports is watching this game. And just another walk-in, easy 2-point conversion by Toledo. They're going deep in their bag here to try to get this trophy. 48-46 is the score now. We'll let Pittsburgh line it up and go. Numbers are in from yesterday. It was a big day, obviously, Christmas Day. It used to be the NBA's day. Now the NFL is jumping in on it. A couple of games yesterday. Neither one was very competitive, but there's a lot of talk about ratings, a lot of talk about interest the last couple of weeks when it comes to the NBA. The NBA, coincidentally, just posted this. Most watched Christmas Day in 5 years. The NBA delivered its most watched Christmas Day with a viewership up 84% versus last year. And then they go ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus. All of those platforms, all of those verticals. The NBA on Christmas Day averaged 5.25 million viewers per game in the U.S. Number one, no surprise, Lakers, Warriors, LeBron versus Steph, which was an awesome game. Both the guys, both the old heads, as they say, showed up. 7.76 million viewers on average, peaked with 8.32. That was prime time. Football was over, so that makes sense. I'll say this. There's room for both, everybody. There's room for both on Christmas Day. The NFL coming in, it's not going to ruin the NBA on Christmas. Although I'll say this. When are we ever going to be able to just last channel from Netflix? Is this my official old man yells at the cloud crossing of the bridge? Because yesterday I'm watching, I forgot that the NFL was on because I was so locked in on Wolves Mavs. Actually, first we were watching Cat. We were watching Spurs and Knicks. And by the way, Wembanyama, if you haven't watched him, fan has learned, the guy's pretty damn good. I think he's here on Sunday night. Yeah, the Spurs come here on Sunday night. I'm going to be out of town. Otherwise, I would absolutely go watch Wemby. You want to? I can tell you're distracted. You want to see. This is for everything.
This is for all the
little pressure.
No.
Pittsburgh quarterback throws it. No. It's short. That'll do it. Any flags? No. The third field storm is the final field storm for Toledo. They win in 6 overtimes, 48-46 over Pittsburgh.
That's heartbreaking.
Look, the Toledo defensive back. Yeah, you got to give respect to the wide receiver. That's a hard-fought battle in the Game Above Sports Bowl. But what was I saying? Oh, I'm watching Cat, watching Wemby. Everybody's mad at Wemby for shooting 16 threes because he's like 7'9". But did you watch him? Like, he makes a lot of them. And yeah, should he post up more? He probably should. But he did a lot of that too. He was ridiculous yesterday. And again, he's like 20 years old. So let's let him kind of find his way and find his game. And the Spurs are not bad. They're right. Their record is right around the Timberwolves record. Now, the easy cheap shot is, well, the Wolves are no good, but they're in the playoff mix at the moment. Wemby is phenomenal. What a watch. The Knicks end up winning. They were down big like the whole game, found a way to do it. But all I want to be able to do, is this too hard, Brett? Is be watching Netflix and then not have to hit exit and then not have to find last channel and not have to mess with input. Like, that's the biggest barrier for old people like me, 42 years old. Now, can I have a setup like Meat Sauce and have multiple TVs? I could, but not everybody has that. And pretty soon, one of those, starting tomorrow, one of those TVs for Meat Sauce is going to be Baby Shark or something on YouTube once the baby boy comes. It's still too laborious for me. So while we were watching the Wolves, I think my brother-in-law even said, hey, what'd the Chiefs end up doing? Because we switched it over at halftime. Said, I don't know. I'm not taking the time to go back to that. I go, that game's on in the living room. We're in the sunroom now. This one's staying. We're not messing around here. Because once I exit Netflix, there's no guarantee. Once I go to Netflix, I might not ever be able to get back out of it. And I want to be able to watch the Wolves in the second half. That to me is the thing, because the product was great. The pregame show was fine. They had CBS come in to do the production of it. They obviously learned their lessons from the Mike Tyson fight. I know there were some issues with some sound early, and then there were some buffering issues later on in the fourth. But once we got it on our TV, and it took a minute to kind of get clear. You know, it was buffering. It was fuzzy for a minute.
It's at 360p for a little bit.
Yeah, but once it locked in, it was fine. It was good. So all of that's good. And I think they're going to have a bunch more games next year. They've signed up for the next couple of years. $150 million is what it cost them yesterday to get those games. And so I think that's not going away. These streaming services are obviously jumping in on live sports, as they should. The numbers for the NFL, by the way, 24.3 million for Ravens Texans and 24.1 million for Chiefs Steelers, the most streamed NFL games in U.S. history, which makes sense because it's Christmas Day. Everybody's home. Netflix has 200 million subscribers or whatever it is, but you're young. Is there a way they can solve that problem for us old heads where it's not so many steps to just get back to the game that I want to watch?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing they could do is you'd probably have to hit either the home button or what'll probably happen is that you'll have the input and you'll just switch back and forth from input to input. That's honestly the best solution. But then if you're on the smart TV where it's an app on the TV itself, now you've got to hit the home button and you've got to go back to cable and or whatever, TV service you have. So yeah, that would be my advice, is to get like a stick or something, like another device that you have Netflix on, plug that in the TV, and all you got to do is just flip from HDMI 1 to HDMI 2. That's what I do.
That's a very good suggestion. That thankfully it doesn't come up very often, because it's not it's not very often that you're wanting to flip back and forth. Now, I know for the playoffs there's at least one game that's going to be stream only, I think, right? That opening weekend, that Saturday game. But those are
probably, is it on the Peacock?
I think so, yeah. And those are all in their own windows and things like that. So you shouldn't have really any issues unless you want to watch another sport that's going on. But I just can't imagine right now trying to watch the Game Above Sports Bowl, formerly known as the Quick Lane Bowl, where I'm a 3-time veteran of it. So I have great affinity for that bowl because I've been there 3 times. I think we're the only crew that's ever been there 3 times. We know that like the back of our hand. But if I wanted to flip back and forth right now, or even the Rate Bowl, which is
You're a veteran of this bowl as well.
I am. This is a great bowl game. The one in Phoenix. It's awesome. It's so much fun. People should love going to this one. Although it's the day after Christmas, that's an L. It's all about the dates. It's all about the times, because they're spreading them all out now. But if I wanted to watch the NFL game and flip it back to the Rate Bowl between Rutgers and Kansas State, it would have been tricky.
That is always a tough decision to watch. NFL, last couple weeks of the season, playoff seeding on the line, or the Rate Bowl. It's tough to flip back and forth between those two.
It's very difficult. Yeah. Now, yesterday, I would have been interested to know what the numbers were, because neither game was very compelling, the NFL games. The Steeler game, it was close at the half. Wasn't it 14-10 or something like that?
Yeah.
It was relatively close at the half. But even the first half, I think Kansas City was kind of up. Pittsburgh scored late. And then it was completely an abomination in the second half. Tomlin went into the press conference and was like, yeah, that sucked. We all saw it. We all know. And then the Houston, what was the other game that I just said? Houston-Baltimore.
Yeah.
Was a debacle.
Cool jerseys.
Yes.
That's about it.
Cool jerseys. Was a debacle from the jump. You wonder how much bigger those ratings would have been or those Netflix numbers would have been if either game was somewhat compelling. And again, both of those games on paper, maybe not now, but when they scheduled them, should have been, right? Houston-Baltimore should have been shaped up to be a huge game. And some things have gotten pear-shaped for Houston. Baltimore looks like it's rounding into form. Playoffs are going to be sick. I mean, the next few weeks are going to be absolutely sick. You will live with the Netflix channel surfing issue if you have to for the games that are coming up this week. And that includes this Sunday at US Bank Stadium, where never has a game in this rivalry been so big and been so important with so much on the line. I started the show trying to even find some that compare to it. And it's tough. I don't know if you have any off the top of your head, because you have the Packer perspective of it when there was a lot on the line.
Yeah.
But I came up with 2016. It was the last game of the regular season for the division. And it was at Lambeau, and it was Mike Zimmer-led Minnesota Vikings knocked off Aaron Rodgers 20-13. There's the famous photo of Zimmer, front seat on the bus, just feet kicked back, smiling because they had just slayed the Aaron Rodgers Dragon and won the NFC North. That was their first time that they won it. Next year was the Keenum deal. But everything seemed right with the world then, right? I think Teddy was our QB. That had to have been the Blair Walsh game. Or maybe that was a couple days before. I don't remember. But they win the game. They beat the Packers. That was a big one because it was whoever wins that game wins the division. 2012, the Ponder game. For the Vikings, it was big because it was winning in, and they won and ended up having to go to Green Bay the next week. But even that, like, everybody knew the Vikings weren't doing anything that year, even though Adrian was MVP. And Ponder played the game of his life and made the one critical throw that he absolutely had to have after a timeout, and I'll remember it forever. It was insane. And then he didn't get to play the next week. But that team, number one seed wasn't on the line. You didn't feel like they were about to go on a 6-seed New York Giants-like run and sweep their way into the Super Bowl. You have to go back to probably 2009, 2010, when it was the Packers and the Vikings at top of the division. Obviously, 2009 went the Vikings' way. 2010 went the Packers' way. And then they went on to win the Super Bowl. So there were obviously big stakes in all of those games. But those games were all earlier in the season. And then 98 is big. Just Vikings will always remember that, Vikings fans, because of what Randy Moss's explosion onto the scene did for that rivalry, for the Vikings, for the NFL. I mean, it changed the franchise here, the whole bit. And again, we know that the Vikings did not go to the Super Bowl that season because they lost at home as a number one seed, a 15-1 regular season team losing at home to the Atlanta Falcons. Not that I don't remember every moment of that game, however many years later. So these are the good old days. This is the week I'm hoping that fans of the rivalry will be talking about for a long time. You'll remember it because it's setting up to be absolutely mythic. It's setting up to be hugely consequential. And it's not hyperbolic to go, is this a Sam Darnold legacy game for what his future is here? Everybody's telling me you got to see what he does these last few games and the playoffs to see if he's worth investing in. For me, I'm absolutely franchise tagging him. We've gone 3 hours and 53 minutes without talking about the future with Darnold. In the last minute, so we'll do it. I'm absolutely running it back for another year and seeing what you have. And then you don't have to do anything crazy or rush anything with JJ. But there's some people that have said, let's see how he handles the next 2 weeks. Maybe he bottoms out on Sunday. Maybe he bottoms out against Detroit. Maybe he's terrible in the playoffs. And then it's a lot easier to move on and say, thanks for everything you did, but we're moving on to JJ. But what if he's good? I mean, what if he's really good? What if he goes toe-to-toe with Jordan Love and the Vikings knock off the Packers and then the Vikings go to Detroit and beat them with Teddy Bridgewater as the quarterback after they knock Jared Goff out of the game? Then what do you do? I mean, it is hyperbolic, but it's not insane to think that this is a big Sunday for perhaps the future of the Vikings quarterback position. I don't know, but everything just feels big Sunday, does it not?
Absolutely, yeah. I struggle to think of big games that can even. The only one that I could think of that I would even consider just an honorable mention compared to yours. There was a 2019 Monday Night Football game here. If you recall, I think the Packers were like 12-2. The Vikings were like 5.5-point favorites. Both teams went into the playoffs that year. That was the Saints game.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember. And that ended up clinching the NFC North for the Pack that night. It was late December-ish. But those are two playoff teams in US Bank, prime time, everyone watching. And it ended up going, obviously I remember that one, go figure. But but I wouldn't even put that in the realm of the ones that you just named.
No. And this one supersedes all of that. So
yeah,
it's going to be fun.
Agreed.
We'll talk a lot more about it tomorrow when Ben Gessling joins. Lavelli Neal III will join. And we'll get Carl Gerbschmidt's thoughts. I'm sure he's coming over. 23% of the tickets right now are thought to be purchased by Packer fans.
Have we upped the security so that Gerby can't get in this year?
No, he'll get in. He always finds a way. Right. So 23%. Seifert had that tweet according to Vivid Seats. So we'll see. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks to Brett Blakemore from Packer Preview as well for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 3. Vikings coverage next.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee. So you say,
Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?
Brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you're ready for some beats.
Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music.
You head to meet some friends, but can't remember the place.
Hey, Meta, call Eva.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey, Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Shop now at meta.com/smartglasses.
What's your favorite hunting tradition? Is it the early morning coffee by the campfire or the stories shared while waiting in the blind? Maybe it's that special spot you go back to every season, just like the person who first took you hunting. Hunting season is finally here, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has everything you need to gear up for less. From shotguns and rifles to feeders, game cameras, camo, and more, we've got the brands you trust and the prices you'll love. Plus, text HUNT24 to 22369 and get $20 off when you spend $100 on hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you shop. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Gear up, have fun, and make this season your best one yet.